Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh.
The greatest scam in history.
Let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. I'm sorry I haven't released anything for a few days. I've been really busy. Things in my personal life have been a bit crazy. Finally managed to get rid of my home, and I will be stacking some sats hard, stacking sats for every motherfucker who is trying to take control of this country and every other country, stacking so that they can't get their greedy fucking mitts on them. And I really feel at this point in life, with my understanding of what's going on, it is the best thing that I can do for the future generations. Talking of future generations, we have got Lauren joining us today. She's brought her dad along, Daniel Prince. He's the co-host of her wonderful show, Once Bitten. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go and have a listen. The two of them have got some fantastic content, brilliant interviews on there. But I actually got them in today to speak about education. Daniel has been talking to me about education for a long time, ever since we first actually met. He's very, very knowledgeable in this area, and we're talking specifically about homeschooling. Lauren is currently being homeschooled, and during the interview I got to find out what that's like and basically why more and more Bitcoiners are thinking this way. I also had Soul Exporter with me. He was sort of, you could tell during the interview, thinking more and more about this. Soul X-Boy, who I'm hoping to have on the show soon, had a couple of concerns around it. So when I next speak to him, I'll find out whether actually they've gone forward with it. But yeah, it was really great to speak to Daniel and Lauren. Always fantastic to speak to Soul X. And I really hope you enjoyed the show. Before we dive in, I want to say thank you to my sponsors. Thank you to CoinFloor UK for continuing to sponsor the show. If you are in the UK and you are looking for somewhere to stack sats, weekly, monthly, daily, however you want to do it, you can do that with their service. And also to Crypto Cloaks. Crypto Cloaks is my new sponsor. You will know them from Twitter. They have some fantastic products. 3D printing is their business. They have so much stuff on there that I want. They're Bitcoin only, and yeah, I'm very, very proud to have them as a sponsor. For anyone who has listened to the previous two shows of the MESHTADEL monthlies, you know that we are really trying to find all different ways that Bitcoiners can improve their lives. And obviously we've done permaculture. We are now moving on to education. I kind of think it would be cool to do something around diet next, but if anyone listens to it and they have any suggestions, anything they'd really like to learn about, or any suggestions for guests, then reach out, let me know, and I will try and make it happen. Enjoy the show, and thank you for your patience. Welcome everyone. I've got Solex back, I've got Daniel Prince, and most importantly, we've got Lauren joining us. This is a show all about education, a show so that Bitcoiners can get the best education for their children, and it's massively important. So this follows on from the last episode that we did, which was all about permaculture, to make sure that we're having the most nutritionally dense food and that we're doing things properly and not strip mining the soil. And education really is on a level or more important than this. it is the future. So welcome, Daniel, welcome, Lauren. And for anyone who hasn't already heard your amazing podcast, Once Bitten, which I think would be very unlikely, can you do a little bit of an introduction on what you guys are doing and also a background on the homeschooling stuff and the experience you have in that?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I probably shouldn't talk over the main star of the show. So over to you, Lauren.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, you really put me on the spot right now.
Why don't we start with how long have you been doing homeschooling and do you like it?
I think I've been doing homeschooling for like a half a year or like a year now. Has it like?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you between the age of 3 and 6, we were traveling. So
Yeah.
we were doing something
But then
called
we
world
stopped.
schooling. And then you went to school here in France for about 3 years. And now in the last about year and a half, you've been online doing self-directed education with GalileoXP.com.
And I like my school online. It's very, like, the teachers are so kind. They feel like you're their friend. Like, yeah, and there's lots of kids around the world. They're all amazing. It's good to meet different people around the world. But the thing is, you can't go meet them, and it's kind of annoying because I really want to see them, and yeah, it'll be very cool.
That was one of my main questions.
Yeah, go on then. Solex, jump in here.
Yeah, no, that was one of my main questions because I was trying to sell that to Solex Boy as well, the Galileo, because I heard the podcast that Princey did with the director that was, or who was that? I don't remember. And
I was glad to see you.
Yeah. And I was really sold on the idea. And then was trying to sell the idea to Solex Boy as well. And the first thing he said was, but I don't want to lose my friends here. And the second reason that he didn't want to join was the video. Why do they have to do a video recording? I have to ask from Solex Boy.
Good OPSEC.
Yeah, it doesn't like to have his face on camera. So that would be a second question for the Galileo. Why do they need to record a video in the beginning? Was Solex Boy's question. So those were my two questions. I'm out of the show now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they do the recording for kids who can't make it, and they might send it to them, or they will do the recording for other teachers to see what's happening.
But as an introduction, no, because it's before registering. There was you have to do an introduction of yourself on camera, and that was for Solex Boy. Like, I don't feel like doing that.
Oh, I see what you mean. So if you go through the sign-up process, you now have to send in a little 1-minute video of yourself?
Something like that, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Okay,
I didn't realize they were doing that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure if you were to email them and just reach directly out to Vlad and explain that situation, I'm sure he'd just jump on a Zoom call with you and do even a personal introduction. Yeah. There's no fixed rules. That's the great thing about any startup really, but particularly this one that is just trying to accommodate kids and understand different personalities and different needs and wants from kids. Some kids, they don't turn their cameras on during their lessons the whole time because they, for whatever reason, they don't feel comfortable, or they've had problems in the past with some kind of overexposure for whatever reason, and maybe they just psychologically aren't ready to show their faces on camera. So there's all kinds of different reasons people might not want to join the classrooms on camera. But to just to do the little short 1-minute video pitch, I didn't realize that's what students were doing. I'm sure Galileo think it's just a fun thing perhaps for the kids to do. But if they're not comfortable doing it, then of course reach out and say, hey, we'd like to have a chat. But Solex Boy is not too comfortable showing this 1-minute video. Once he's had a chat, maybe he would want to do it.
Because I think I might have stressed the importance of OPSEC, because now he's also going through all of the PCs here, deinstalling Chrome, putting over everywhere Mozilla, anti-spyware, installing VMs on the PC, on his PC. He's
I love it.
It's going in overdrive there.
How old is Solex Boy now? Or
10 turning 11.
Too much, roughly. Wow.
Okay.
That's pretty advanced
That's
stuff
why
at
this
that age.
topic interests me really a lot. Because now, actually, Lauren, the next question for you, if I may, is what are the topics you're following in school?
Okay.
Different lessons.
I don't have a lot, but I do have a lot. I have a lot on Sundays. So on Monday, I'm just gonna do the classes. Sorry. So I normally have book nook. It's where it helps you read, because I'm not the best reader. Then I got debate. It's where you just argue about one thing, and there's a yes, no, and the yes team and the no team, and you just chat which one's better. Then I got a student-led club, because kids can run their own clubs if they wanted to. It is history, mystery, and mythology. And then I have a little break. And then I have arts and crafts. It's where you paint and make stuff. It's real fun. Really fun. And then I got gaming club. I got Minecraft education. You'll just get better at building and stuff when you go there, and you learn a lot. For me, I think that has helped me build a lot more better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got Japanese.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hajimashita.
Very cool.
Genki desu ka?
I'm not really good at Japanese.
Me neither. I just know a few words. Yeah, probably I pronounced them wrong, so might be my fault.
When I'm out of Japanese, I'm like, what are you saying? But when I'm in my club, I'm just I kind of know what that means.
Yeah, and I have the same with French, actually. If you talk for 5 minutes in French, you start thinking in French. And the first 5 minutes, it's really hard because you try to translate everything in your mind. But then once you're in a certain mindset, you start to think in that language. At least that's how it works for me, because I suck in any school languages. I always had bad scores in school. But I was at least able to buy my food when we went somewhere. Really interesting, Lauren.
The other sort of 23 hours a day, you're learning finance from your dad, right? You're learning about Bitcoin and how money really works.
I said in one of the podcasts, we be very careful what we say to not set him off. We're just today this thing happened, and then then I just look at my sibling and we're just why? And then luckily he doesn't say something. I'm just oh my god.
Because the money's broken, Lauren.
I know that, Daddy. You say that literally every single day.
Morning, Lauren. The money is broken. I love it. Yeah, I love it. And so the other thing you were saying, which I picked up on, which amazes me, is you said at your new school, the teachers are like friends. And that's so cool. I don't have kids yet. I plan to. And if I could hear that from my children, I would be so happy, because I remember my schooling and they certainly didn't consider me a friend, any of the teachers. And I certainly didn't consider them a friend, any of the teachers. And we didn't have a good relationship. I didn't enjoy it. And to hear you say that was really exciting, because that's when you learn, isn't it? When you're around friends and people you trust and respect. And so what is it that makes them feel like they're friends rather than just teachers?
Well, I don't know. They just give off a friendly vibe, and they help you with a lot of things, and it's really nice. And
well, they treat you like adults as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
And then everybody has their voice. it's the complete reverse of a normal classroom. When these guys,
Mm.
you know, they do a morning check-in at 9 a.m. for 35 minutes with their facilitator, and the only voice you hear are the kids' voices, and they're all screaming over each other, and they're trying to get their points across. And you know, the facilitator, he'll chime in every like 5 minutes or so. You know, in a traditional school system, it's sit down, shut up, do as I say. And you're never. I mean, and it's funny, Max, that you bring this up about your schooling. Mine was the same. My wife Claire and I, we went to the same secondary school, actually primary school as well, because we grew up in the same town, and there was only a couple of schools, and so you know everybody kind of knew each other from these small towns. And somebody had posted on her Facebook feed a picture, a staff picture of our secondary school when we'd probably around the year we probably managed to get us we'd come of age and we were allowed to leave. And I looked at them and I felt nothing but disdain and emptiness for these human beings staring back at me, who are probably very nice people in their own right, you know, and they've just got their own families and whatever else. And I remember saying to her, they were supposed to be our mentors, not our tormentors. I mean, how did this go so horribly wrong? Because it was just like you experienced, and maybe I don't want to put words in Soul Exporter's mouth, but you know, I'm pretty sure all of us are carrying psychological baggage from our schooling days of that style of teaching, where it's sit down, shut up. There's a flapping head at the front. Turn to page 60. This is what we're learning today. Everyone's learning the same. If you're not up to speed, then you're going to fall behind. Then you'll get detention. Then you'll get lines. And it's like so draconian, so authoritarian, so totalitarian, so centralized. It's just beyond belief that we ever had to go through that. It's and it brings so much psychological baggage away from it. And we all suffer for it well into our adult years of that stigma.
It builds little robots, right? Like I look at the people who I went to school with who did very, very well at school, and basically they're good at memorizing and saying yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. They're good at shutting up and not asking questions and memorizing things that they don't fact check. That's it. And most of them didn't survive so well out of school. So generally the ones that were the outliers, the ones that were asking the questions, the ones that were in trouble, certainly from a financial standpoint, are doing much, much better. And, you know, I think that's what's so worrying, is that you have these people who are young adults. They're trying to work out what's going on in the world. They're asking questions, quite often legitimate questions. And the way that the teachers respond is to tell them to shut up, turn to page 48 and read along this text. That's not the way you learn. It's just like, it's maddening. So that's why it literally put a smile on my face. When I heard Lauren say that, I was like, that's amazing. That's brilliant. That makes me happy to hear that this is an option.
Yeah.
I think it's also very different from school to school and maybe country to country. I remember for myself as well that it was, how to say, not the most positive experience to go to school. Whereas Solex Boy, they have a completely different school system than what I had. And he really likes school. They have, maybe we are just very lucky that he's a great teacher, of course, but...
Yeah,
Are you still there, Solex?
Yeah,
sorry. Did you lose me?
I think I might have lost you the last second or something. It sounded like it cut off abruptly.
My internet's kind of a bit weird at the moment.
No, you were saying that maybe you are lucky that he has a good teacher, and fingers crossed that lasts, because a teacher can have such an impact. The problem is the way now that the way the schools are set up. This teacher changes every year. And then when you get to secondary school, it changes every 45 minutes. Yeah. And then again every year.
That's what we had also. Every year it changed. And with Solex Boy now, since he went out of kindergarten, he has still the same teacher. And I think next year still as well. So she goes with them every year further through the years, and the next year is the last year I think they have her, and then it changes only.
Well, if kids are enjoying school, that's great.
Yeah.
Go do it. If they're not being beaten down by the system and aren't being it's finding this perfect middle, because you're either getting beaten down by the system and you just can't get your head above water. No matter what you do, you can never get that B grade or A grade, however they mark you, or you're stuck in the positive reinforcement loop, which is not going to serve you, like to Max's point earlier, when you come to actually leaving school and entering the real world, because you're just not set up for what is really about to happen.
Yeah, you get teach math, history, geography, and all that, but you don't know how to buy a house. You don't know how to buy a car. They haven't taught you that yet.
No.
That's amazing that you're thinking about that at your age already, Lauren. I speak to people who are like 18 years old and they're still not even really thinking about it. They're just, it's like you say, it's not taught, and so they don't think about it, and then it suddenly hits them in the face and they're like, oh, what are these bills? What's this mortgage? How do I get a house? How do I do these things? How do I live my life? And it must be a stressful time for these sorts of people who just suddenly get slapped with it, and it's a bit of a wake up and a shock.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough,
but you're already thinking
on Galileo, they've just started they call them they used to call them nano degrees. What do they call them now? Nano courses? No, I think they had to change. There's a trademark issue. Don't worry.
Daddy, it's just nano courses for short.
Oh, okay.
I think. I don't know. I don't know these things.
There was a trademark problem. Anyway, so they changed it to nano
from
courses.
Udemy.
Right.
No,
and,
Udacity, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. And one of the courses now that's being launched is how to manage your money, and they'll run that for a month to 6 weeks, and the kids can opt in. If it's self-directed education, so if you see a club that you want to join, you opt in and you go for a couple of weeks, see if you like it. If you don't like it, then you opt out, because if you're going under coercion, that's no good for the rest of the class, and it's certainly no good for the teacher. So the kids have the ability to opt in or opt out, and that language is key. It's not dropping out, right? It's like we've grown up to think, college dropout. Well, what about college opt out? Because he looked at what he was being taught. He understood what was being shoved down his neck was complete nonsense. He understood his MBA professor has never run a business in his life. So what the hell does he have? What working knowledge does he have of how to run a business? So people opt out of college. They don't drop out. And especially if you're paying 200 grand, like, opt out quicker. It amazes me that people go to university to do an economics degree. It's like, guys, 200 grand? 200 grand. Where's the economics reasoning here? Like, where on earth what's the opportunity cost of you paying 200 grand to go and get a certificate that says you can do economics? I mean, for me, it's a clear fail. You haven't understood economic structure at all. But
immediate failure.
Yeah,
as soon as you sign up, immediate failure.
So we've gone off a bit of a tangent, but I can't remember what we were talking about.
We were talking about opt-in classes and talking about learning about paying a mortgage and buying a home and all this.
So they are running a how to manage money course for the kids to opt into, and hopefully towards the end of this year. I don't know if you guys have come across Dusat yet on Twitter, the guy in Slovakia.
Not sure.
Okay,
It sort of rings a bell, but I can't place him.
I'm going to screw his name up. Dusat Muscata. Sorry, Dusat. Do you know Solex?
No, I'm thinking about it, because that's
if you send a link, I'll check him out.
Anyway, I did an episode with him because he's managed to get together and crowdsourced a bunch of funding for him to go out and buy thousands of copies of the Bitcoin Rabbi's Bitcoin Money book.
Yeah, now I know.
Right. And he's getting them into primary schools.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Right,
I
yeah.
remember we interviewing him. I
Uh,
forgot my question.
and Dusan Matuska.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sorry,
Dusan.
Dusan. I knew I was getting the N and the T mixed up somewhere. So Dusan Matuska, he came on the show and we talked about his passion project for interviewing. Bringing the book to as many primary schools as he could, and he has like this goal to educate 100 million people by Bitcoin about Bitcoin by the end of 2030, and it's just such a heartwarming thing to see. And we hope towards the end of the year, because what he's doing, he's using a book as a guide, and he's going to write a methodology to teach to each chapter for primary school teachers because they don't know about Bitcoin themselves or Austrian economics. So he's going to do that. And then once he's done that, translate it all into English. And we hope to bring that course as well to Galileo to teach the kids at a very basic level about sound money and what is money and fiat money and money as a technology, medium of exchange, and all of this stuff that we've slowly taught ourselves over the last however many years. So that's really cool. That will be coming hopefully.
Incredible.
Yeah, and it's just like stuff like this is so important and completely against like the mainstream narrative, right? It just you wouldn't find it if it weren't for people like Dusan putting these kind of passion projects together.
So Daniel, with all of your experience with this and homeschooling and obviously Bitcoin, where do you sit with it in terms of kids not being taught anything to do with finance or a lot of the things that are actually going to be applicable and useful in their lives? It's more repetition and reading it out of a textbook. Do you lean on the side where you're saying, oh, well, it's just because they're incompetent and they haven't actually bothered to update the way that they're teaching these kids, and it's a mixture of laziness and incompetence and stupidity and just sort of all bundled together? Or do you lean more towards thinking, maybe there's a reason they don't want children to be actually taught about money and actually what it is and how it works? Because if they understood it, there would be serious problems. There would be an uprising. There would be people really saying, well, no, I'm not working for that system. Where do you sit?
100%. The second. Okay, 100%.
Me too. Me too.
Just follow the line of decision making. We have a top-down structure, right? I mean, who makes the curriculum? Right? It's an unelected bureaucrat that all of a sudden is the Minister of Education in whatever country. Might never have ever worked in education before. Ever. Bam. You are now, madam, you are now, sir, the Minister of Education. Because you're a crony of the guy or the woman that just got elected. And what do they inherit? They inherit this curriculum. They'll just put a few bells and whistles on it. They'll make a little bit of noise to say, we're going to change this, we're going to change that. They might go something like crazy, say, oh, we're going to put in something, a proposal to give kids a Wednesday afternoon off that gets everybody talking, and it divides people, straight down the middle. Your parents like, no, this can never happen. Or yes, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And it's just all smoke and mirrors. And here we are, we just bounce along. We've been in the same education experiment since the 1890s when, mainstream education became a thing. This is what people miss. We just take it for granted. This is how it is, right? This is still new on the history of like the human timeline. Schooling is 150 years old. Out of like millennia of our existence, we didn't need it before, and we won't need it again. And many people have never even touched it, and are very successful entrepreneurs. And many others have done slightly different things. Like maybe they've gone to a democratic school, or maybe they've gone completely homeschool, or maybe they've done the world school option, or maybe they've dipped in and out of different schools and traveled and done Montessori style. There's a plethora of different ways that we can educate ourselves. And in fact, that should be That should be the norm. Putting everybody into this funnel and insisting that society is always going to learn the exact same thing year after year, we're setting ourselves up for societal collapse anyway, because we need diversity. It's that basic. But while we're on this, Max, I've pulled up, actually, I don't know, you have to put this in the show notes, John Taylor Gatto, which I think a lot of people have seen his clips. If not, definitely check them out on YouTube. He found a book by, I think the guy's name was John Ingalls, and it was The Six Purposes of School. And he goes through them. There's a very long form interview or there's a short form interview. I recommend both. But if we just go through now, like the 6 purposes that he uncovered in this original text of why school came to be in the first place, it all starts to unfold pretty rapidly what's going on. And number 1 is adjustive function. And that is establish fixed habits of reaction to authority. I mean, come on. Sit down, shut up. Fixed habit.
That sent shivers down my spine just hearing that.
Think of the fixed habits. Think of the fixed habits you get, even from kindergarten. You turn up, coat off, on the hook, put the bag there, put your shoes in there, sit down, that's your desk. You get them from that age. It's really freaking crazy. And then when you go up the ladder and up the ages, there's just slight increments on it. But we all know, I mean, all the parents complain, oh my God, do you get it? Like when your teenagers get home from school, what's the first thing they do? Well, they pick their phones up and call their friends, and then they're on their phone for hours with the same people that have been sat next to each day. Like, yeah, because they don't get to talk to them when they're in the bloody gulag. They're not allowed, right? So when they get out of the gulag, they go home and they get on their phones, and then they actually talk to each other about their day, and they complain to each other about, oh, so-and-so said this, and there's a love triangle over here, and can you believe that teacher's such an asshole, and blah, 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 because that is just how life is. And then you will walk through these next few points. Number 2, integrating conformity function, develop like-mindedness and unity in thoughts and habits. So again, we have
unity
this
in thoughts and habits,
conformity in thoughts and habits, develop like-mindedness. And this when this people argue about school uniform, whether it's good or bad. And the narrative now, for the most part, especially in the UK, is, oh, well, it's good. It gives them a sense of identity, and it takes away bullying in the classroom because everybody can wear, they wear the same things. And, it's like, what a load of bollocks. Can you listen to what you're actually saying? It actually, what it does is the complete opposite. It niches down bullying. Because all of a sudden your tie is an inch too short, or you've tied it like a half a centimeter too wide, or your trousers are a millimeter too long, or the shoes you're wearing are the wrong shade of black. We've all been through it, wearing school uniforms and blazers. Then the shorts, the sleeves on your blazer are just half an inch too short, or whatever else. So it niches down bullying, this conformity, right? And develop like-mindedness. Look the same, walk the same, sit the same. It's just unbelievable what's going on.
Factory.
A total factory. And I tell you what, I'm going to be sick next year when, come September, Max, is going to happen in the UK, when state schools start issuing uniform masks with the little emblem on them.
Is this something that you're just predicting because it's stupid enough that it's definitely going to happen? Yeah. and I can say now that Daniel is absolutely right, and it will definitely happen because it's just stupid enough that it will.
Look, these points, right? I mean, look at what, develop like-mindedness. And so number 3 here, directive function. Label children to mark them in the class structure. So directive function. And this is where you start labeling the thickies and separating the Max, you went to school in the UK. I bet you had a head boy somewhere or a head girl, and there were prefects.
Yeah. I went to a very, very strict military school. All I can say is I was very fit by the end of it because I was punished every day and did front drives and had to miss breakfast every morning to run up and down until I was sick. That was my school,
Mate.
because I asked questions. And yes, we had a head boy, and yes, we had prefects. I obviously wasn't one of them. And they had little privileges, like they could walk over a little patch of grass that we couldn't, which we did anyway, obviously. And yeah, absolutely ridiculous. It was not an enjoyable experience. And I actually think I'm more stupid because of school than I would have been if I hadn't gone. And my grandparents paid a lot of money for me to go there as a private school. It was not cheap. If they'd have just, Bitcoin wasn't around then, but if they'd invested that same amount of money in property or stock market or anything else, I'd have come out of school and I wouldn't actually have probably had to work. So yeah, it was a complete waste of money and time.
But they thought they were doing the right thing, right? This is the social
Of course
pressure.
they did. Yeah, of course they did, yeah.
The social pressure, like surrounding parents and grandparents to make sure that they do the best for their kids, in air quotes, and get them in the best schools, and it just pushes people to making misinformed decisions, basically, because you get blinded by what's going on, and God forbid anyone should actually sit down and have a conversation with the kid every now and then. What kind of how do you learn? Like what's the kind of thing that, instead of the stock question, what do you want to be when you grow up, and just wait for the policeman, fireman, pilot, whatever answer, and then move on to, okay, here you go, you little scamp, here's a sweetie, go run off in the garden. And they were about as deep as conversations got. But again, to come back to these points, number 4 is differentiating function. Divide and conquer strategy to immobilize the social structure. So, this is when you start thinking about putting kids into different sets for different things. I remember come the third year that's what it used to be called. We didn't have grades 5, 6, 7. I don't even know what they are. But come the third year, it's like, right, you go into set 3 for English, you go into set 4 for France, you go into set French, you go set 4 for math, then you go into set 2 for science. And bam, you're pigeonholed. And you've divided and conquered a lot of friendships that have started to build and got everybody feared up again, especially when you've got to go home and tell your parents, I'm in set 4 for something, and get bollocked and face that, shame. It's really damaging and traumatizing. So, point 5 here is selective function, preservation of the favored races. I mean, tag the unfit. Who's the guy that gets chosen last for football? The guy that's slightly overweight, or God knows what else is going on in the classroom. And you'd have seen that at a military school to no end.
Yep. It does damage characters. It causes all sorts of issues, and I think for kids who don't have any self-confidence, luckily I was a cocky little bastard, and so it didn't really affect me too much. But I was in bottom set for basically everything. Maths, I had to just stand outside the classroom. I wasn't even allowed into my classroom for maths for about a year and a half. RE, I had to sit outside the headmaster's office every RE lesson. Wasn't allowed in. So my labeling in my own mind was like, oh, well, I'm really stupid then, because I'm in the last set for everything, not even allowed in this classroom. When I ask a question, I get thrown out, and so I'm really stupid. And so that is a reinforcing thought that you have from, or for me, from whatever, 4 years old or 5 years old or whatever you are till 16 or whatever. You're just like, I'm an idiot. And that's not a great way to make someone feel about themselves, and it's also generally wrong. Like I said, the people who were the worst at school did the best, and the people who were the best at school did the worst. So there's obviously something going wrong there.
Yeah, and this one is hang on, Lauren wants to just she's getting bored with my ranting.
So Just if you have any questions, then you can say them now because I kind of
Yeah, I do have some questions. So, Lauren, with your schooling now, do you look forward to it when you wake up? Is it something that you think, like, I'll give you an example. Like every day I wake up, I get excited because I get to learn about Bitcoin and I get to speak to people who interest me. Is it the same for you when you go to school?
Well, sometimes I just like, oh, I just want 5 more minutes. But sometimes I just wake up, brush my hair, and then just go on my class. Don't need to do anything, don't need to change because all they see is like your head and your shoulders. So I'm just in my pajamas doing my schedule, playing games with my classmates, and then done, go downstairs, make my breakfast, and then just my day comes. Go.
Yeah, even
Very
that
cool.
takes so much stress away from the family structure.
Oh, and the best thing is, I get to wake up at 8:30, but I changed the time to 8:37 because I wanted 7 more minutes of sleep. And then, and yeah, so you don't have to wake up at 7, get changed, have all that stress, and then just go, be a bit late, and get shouted at. Oh, and you can skip the classes if you want, but there's sadly no holidays.
Well, the point is you holiday when you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you just like get up, you're just like, oh, look at the time. Just you get on the class, you say, hi, sorry I'm late, and they're like, oh, it's fine, and you're just like, oh, really? It's like I didn't get shouted at.
They're treating you like an adult.
Yes.
And it clearly works. I've spoken to the children of Bitcoiners now, a few of them, you being one of them, Lauren, and there is an obvious difference between normal schooling kids and Bitcoiners kids. And I'm sure it extends outside of the classroom. I'm sure it's, that the parents are more involved and talking about subjects that maybe other parents wouldn't talk about. But it's very, very clear that you are thinking about things that most people wouldn't. I wasn't at your age. I wasn't thinking about the things you're talking about. And it makes me excited to see what happens in the future. And what about you, Solex? Any more questions for Lauren?
Yeah, one last one. If you have the chance to change anything at your school now, at the home school, what would you change?
Are you on mute, Solex? Have we lost you?
No, I heard him. Try again, Solex.
Okay. So, Lauren, if you can change anything about the school, the Galileo school, what would it be?
Did you guys hear that?
No. Can you relay the question?
Yeah, so it was Lauren. If you were to change anything at Galileo, what would it be?
Oh, okay. So my mum mentioned this, and I thought it was a pretty good idea because the facilitators, like I am so happy they do this, but they get up at like, I don't know, God knows what time, like 3 a.m., 7 a.m. Well, not 7 a.m. Like that's like a bit. But still, they wake up at 3 a.m., sometimes 6 a.m. to do their classes. And I think sometimes they need a break, but they do it like once or twice a week because like the American, sometimes they do the Asians all alone and the Europeans time zones.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's... Wait, I can't... Oh, yeah, I think they need a vacation for, like, I don't know, like a week or 2.
This is the teachers you're talking about?
Yeah, the teachers and kids.
So considerate.
They're just mostly on Galileo, but sometimes they just take a monthly break, and then they're back on. So, yeah.
But other than that, you're happy?
Yeah, I'm happy with everything, and I don't think there's anything else.
One of your teachers is going to take a break for a little while, and you're a little bit upset, and you think,
I really
she got a bit burnt out, maybe.
Yeah,
because she was working so hard. It's a startup. This happens, right? People are all hands on deck and pushing really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, she'll be back though. Don't you worry.
Yeah, but I really miss her.
That's so good to hear. Lauren, thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope you'll come on the pod again soon. And yeah, really nice to speak to you, and good to hear straight from the horse's mouth how it really is at school.
Thank you for having me. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Lauren.
All right, I can leave you to your Bitcoin stuff.
Bye.
Bye.
Daniel, can you hear Solex now? Solex, try talking.
Hello.
Did you hear that?
Guess
No,
not.
I don't know what's going on.
Ah, really weird.
I don't see any waveform on his mic either. So I don't know, for
That's
whatever
so
reason, we've
weird.
completely lost his audio on my side. But you can hear him, yeah?
I can hear him. It wouldn't be this podcast if I didn't have some sort of audio issue. I don't think I ever have one without an audio issue. So why don't we close this one out?
Mhm.
I'll send a new link and then I'll just edit the two together.
Let's do it.
I'm now recording. So
1, 2.
Hello. Yeah, now I see
Yeah.
some waveform.
Daniel, did you hear that?
Yep, we're all back to the Three Musketeers.
Excellent. All right, cool. I can't remember where we got to now after that. I think I was just saying how nice it is to hear from Lauren, to hear how happy she was, and asked how it makes you feel to know that your child is so happy.
Yeah, it's great, man. You know, we've done the whole spectrum of schooling, I suppose, at this stage. When I think about, you know, we've got 4 kids. We were in Singapore, living the expat lifestyle for many years. We were out there for 15 years, and you know that's awesome. But you do fall into some Joneses traps, and one of those being you know, private education at ridiculous fiat costs for 4 to 5 year olds. I mean, my God, $30,000 a year to send some kids in to do finger painting. I mean, what
Ouch.
were we thinking?
Unless they come back with a Picasso.
Oh, exactly. So yeah, only Caitlin experienced that. And then she then experienced Singapore State School, which is a gulag, to say the very least. Like as old fashioned and as traditional as you'll get. You know, you're talking hair length, skirt length, sleeve length, national anthem in the playground every morning. Oh man, it's just really, really shocking. So glad to escape that. And then we tried the world schooling when we were 2.5 years traveling with all the kids, with all 4 of them. You know, we removed education from state, and my God, was that freeing. And when it's like Bitcoin, right? When you see, you cannot unsee. And you know, all of the kind of pre-held beliefs and fixed mindsets about getting good grades and what a good education should look like, and you know, defining success and defining a good student, defining a good grade, defining, you know, the happiness like throughout that schooling adventure. You kind of just, it all unravels in front of your eyes, and you realize, my God, what are we doing to kids? Like, really, especially in Asia. You know, the tiger mums over there, because it's the only way, especially in countries such as Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, Singapore as well, China. The only way to move up these social structures, these class systems or caste systems, whatever you have, is to have this kind of all shiny kind of certification from the best schools. And the only way you're going to get that is if you really can cream it from the age of 6, 7, or 8 at math. That's how they sort the kids over there. So you've got to be a math genius or forget it.
Wow.
And we saw this exposed very, very, you know, starkly when Caitlin was tested. She went through these tests at 7 or 8, and we were just like, what is this? Like, seriously. And we were told, right, okay, yeah, she's going to go into set X for this, set X for that, set X for this. You're like, okay, yeah, fine, sounds good. And set 3 for English. We're like, say that again? Like, we are English. She speaks perfect English. She's a native English speaker. What is it that you're looking for from the kids? Oh no, her grammar's not good enough and her cursive isn't good enough. We're like, oh my God, like just what are you saying? And then there were other kids that could barely even, Mandarin would have been their mother tongue, obviously. So the English would have been even more difficult. But they would end up in set 1 for English because they trumped the math. And you're like, okay, I get it. This is how they're ordering their society. And this is back to one of Gatto's points where he talks about. Well, that's point number 6. Propedeutic function. I can't say that word. Never heard of it. Propedeutic function. Grooming
I've never heard of it.
Grooming of those in high. And you are verbose, Max. Grooming of those in higher classes to manage the lower classes. So you put all of these kids in these top sets, or again, Max, back to like the head boy or the head girl and the prefects. And so you are starting them out on this journey of societal structure, and those that are cleverer are going to be rewarded and they're going to be your bosses, and those that are in the middle or towards the bottom, you're fucked. And you're never getting out of the housing projects or whatever, and you're only ever going to be doing manual or menial tasks, or and it's so insidious. So like this comes all the way back to your original question. Do I think there's something to this? It's not a thought, mate. I know there's something to this. I know the system is set up in such a way to dumb down society and to the preservation of favored races, as Gatto talks about, and to groom those in higher classes and to label those in lower classes. And a perfect example, my daughter did a socioeconomics class. So my oldest daughter, Caitlin, she's 15, almost 16. She chooses to go to the local lycée, right? She's like, I want to go there. I want to grab those certificates. I know I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a native English speaker, but she now speaks fluent French, and she's caught in this positive reinforcement loop. And she's been caught. She's being groomed as like a class president or class representative, whatever they call them here. So she's in that. She's in that group. I try and keep her eyes and ears wide open to what's going on, just so she's fully aware of what's going on. But she was saying that she came back out of this socioeconomic class, and the flapping head was saying, right, okay, basically, here's a good way to judge society and people within society. If you can just look at certain families and you can tell whether they're in the rich class or the poor class because of the way that they spend their spare time. Now, if the father is playing golf, for example, and one of the children is doing horse riding, they're going to be in the rich family. And if maybe the father is going to the pub and drinking with his friends and his son is playing football, they're more likely to be in the lower classes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Really? And she's like, yeah, I couldn't believe what was coming out of her mouth. I'm like, well, I'm glad you realize that's complete bullshit. And the hidden message behind this teaching, because this will be in a page of a book, right? They will be tested on this knowledge. And so, but she's walking out with kids that aren't aware as she is and doesn't have a dad like me, trying to knock all of this freaking brainwashing nonsense out of her and any of her friends. But her friends were coming up to her and like, well, does your dad play golf? Well, yeah. And you do horse riding? Yeah. But my brother plays football. So, so we're rich and poor? Like, what?
And my dad plays golf with a tinny in his hand. He gets pissed going round the golf course.
So, wow. But this is what is still being taught in these classrooms in 2021. And there's not a laptop in sight, and there's not a thought in sight, and they're still not allowed to challenge the narrative. So it's just pointless. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the question is that intentional or just echo chamber behavior?
I agree. I agree.
Intentional.
Intentional?
Yeah. So I don't have kids. I don't know anything about schooling.
Yeah.
Daniel, you do. You know everything about schooling, and you've got 4 kids. So, in terms of the education side, I know fuck all. But what I do know is I've looked at every other system that is in this fiat structure. I've looked at every other hierarchical system, and they are all the same. The more I look at it, the more I think there are decisions made here which are not just, there's stupidity sprinkled in there, obviously, but the main goal seems to be keep the population stupid, keep the population busy, keep the population arguing about things that do not matter to distract them from what is really important.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of goal. And so as soon as that slips, as soon as you allow the kids who are in the bottom set, who are maybe thinking a bit differently and you've labeled a certain way, they're the ones who are going to be the thinkers, the dreamers, the doers that are going to change the world. You don't want them to do well. And you don't want people to be able to excel because you want to keep them in debt. You want to keep them poor. You want to keep them on the treadmill for as long as you can. You don't really want them to eat well or experience life the best way they can because you want them to die quickly because you don't want to pay for their healthcare. So it seems as though it would just be logical that if you are that much of an arsehole, and that's obviously across all the different systems, if they're doing it in all the other systems, is it really that much of a stretch to think it was done at school? And looking back at my schooling, it was absolutely brainwashing. It was building little drones that do as they're told. And just going on that, it seems logical that there is fuckery afoot.
I think I heard Ghetto say as well recently on another clip I was watching of him. He said, I'll have to paraphrase, but something along the lines of school is a testing ground for implementing stupid rules or for testing stupid rules. And, that's where you can test on these young, impressionable young minds, how obedient is the next generation going to be? And what makes me sick now is what they're doing with the masks on kids, because this is an attack on that generation to normalize having your respiratory system completely compromised and nobody raising a hand and questioning it. And it's happened for the last year. And I really, my daughter gets very annoyed with me because I won't shut up about it. And I challenge her and her friends. I'm like, my God, we live in a country where they will dump cow shit on the motorway if they raise the level of petrol prices by 2 cents. But you guys have to go and sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day and move between corridors and whatever else, and you're not allowed to breathe. The fresh air, even in recreation. You're like, masks off, parade around with them in the air, like mass protest. You've got to take charge, but they won't, mate. And it's really very, very dangerous what's happening here, because the psychological fallout for kids being told, not only are they being told to sit down and shut up, but they're now that they've been dehumanized completely and muzzled, like physically muzzled. This is a physical attack on their face. It's disgusting.
It's
and
horrific.
I can't believe it's still happening.
But do you think that's why? Do you think that's why is that it like you said, this is a testing ground. So it's get them in, create stupid rules that make no sense, and continuously brainwash them with it. And if they ask a question like, this seems like a really stupid rule, it makes no sense, there's no reason for it, and it doesn't help anyone, all it does is cause problems, could we maybe fuck that rule off? Detention. And you just hit with that and hit with that and hit with that until you either get expelled or you just learn to shut up. And then what happens is they come out of school, and then when someone says, right, everyone wear a mask, and you go, well, hold on, isn't that a bit fucking stupid? Because it doesn't actually help anyone. The masks don't actually stop the spread of this virus, and surely like freedom over someone's own body would be more important than spreading this virus that actually doesn't really kill anyone, and there's no real evidence to support the fact that this would work. Isn't that a bit fucking stupid? And because they've already been trained through school to just go along with stuff that doesn't make sense for so long, they just go, okay then, fine, I'll do that, I'll just do as I'm told.
Look where we are now. Look where we are now. The narrative is, if we all just go and get the vaccine, we can all get back to normal. People have been beaten so far into submission that they're ready to be... even these tests, we know they've been debunked. These PCR tests, we know they're complete and utter bullshit. There's no way in the world we should be doing this to people. But you cannot get on a plane without being what's the nose raped. Like, and they're doing this to kids. It's just unbelievable. And there's so much fuckery at play that it's just. I think we're living through. I was with Badders today, Sir Badminton. We met up for.
Oh dear, he's trouble. He's trouble, that bloke.
And we were talking about this, and it's like, the times we're living through right now are just so many people are asleep to what's actually going on, and this is really, really like shockingly bad. And just like an anecdotal quick story that when we were growing up, Solex, you probably had the same kind of saying in your country. But boomers used to say, especially in the UK, well, if someone told you to put your head in an oven, would you do it? Yeah. I think 95% of fuckers right now would go and do that if they were told.
Definitely.
If it comes from a scientifically responsible organization certified by the government.
Yep, you're right. They absolutely would. Yeah, what has the world come to? How does it make you feel, Solex? You're obviously thinking about homeschooling. It's obviously something that's on your mind. How does this conversation make you feel when you've got your son? Which we've had a few conversations. I can tell this is just everything to you. Your son is everything to you, and you have an incredible relationship between the two of you. How does it make you feel when you hear this conversation? What's going through your head?
A lot of things, actually. First of all, I don't see that intentional dumbing down, but that's just my personal experience and how Solex Boy handles different things as well. The schooling system here is also very different than my schooling system. I had a terrible school-going youth. There it was really dumbing down, not fitting in whatever was coming, not fitting in class, not fitting in the group. It was just a living hell for me. And how I see how Solex Boy goes now to school and how the teacher is really living for the children. I'm really happy that I'm living here just for the benefit of the kids being able to go to this school. But the masks is terrible and there is a lot of stupidity, but it doesn't feel imposed or planned. It's rather, I believe in the past it was planned because I think it was actually in the pod from Princey with Max Hillebrand, where the same topic was actually touched, and that, if I remember it correctly, it made sense in the past because they had to train the drones to work in the factory. And so I believe historically it is correct, and I believe that we are now just stuck in the mass behavior of people, the mob thinking in the same old terms, not being able to change enough.
What about the kids, though?
The kids
So,
are... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, so if it's old school thinking from either when you went to school or Princey went to school or I went to school, there's not a massive age gap between us, but a few years. What about the kids now? Because when I speak to a lot of people, maybe like 16, 17, 18 years old, and this is a massive generalization because I also speak to some geniuses of that age, but the average person I speak to in the UK is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Just saying the same thing that everyone says on repeat. There's no thought. There's no bollocks, basically.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of neutered. They're like little drones just talking about the same climate change stuff and worrying about whether someone's a he, she, her, something, whatever. It's all the same drivel. And you just think, like, what happened to like the kids who like fought back, who had some guts, who had some thought? And like, it seems to me that it's got worse, not better. But maybe that is a UK thing. Maybe where Solex Boy is actually a good school, and that's great if it is. But I don't know.
First of all, it's a global thing, or at least I experienced that here as well. Less as in other countries, like where I'm originally from, that's more. But it happens everywhere. The best thing about the school here is that they only have half a day of school, and afterwards they can have those school organized after hour thingies that are optional. So Solex Boy doesn't do anything in school there. He just does his programming or things he's interested in at home. This is the golden age of internet, and he's looking up the stuff that he wants to learn himself. And my task as a parent is just to kindle his curiosity, and for the rest, he has to find the things out for himself.
Mm-hmm.
For the people being dumbed down is more about, in my personal opinion or in my view, is more about people trying to people's conformism in bigger groups, and that being a lot social media, the mass media, the groups that you circle in, and school as well. But it is a reinforcing system, like the old school system, the people that live in it, politicians talking to the mobs, not putting in what's best for the people, but putting in law what the people want or what they think that's gonna get them elected again next year. They don't care about what's happening, they care about being elected again. The news is bringing only the news that brings the viewers, which brings the sponsors. The advertisers don't want to bring the right information, they want to bring the emotions that sell. The people or the teenagers do not want to, they don't care that much about he, she, them, it, whatever weird shit that's now the hype. They just want to fit in with the narrative at that age, at that moment. And I'm probably the weirdest voice in voicing this, because I'm even in this talk now, the anti-conformist. I just believe more in the stupidity of the masses than in the evil doing of smaller groups. Or in the I don't believe so much in the intelligence of such evildoers. I don't give him the credit to plan this out. Let me put it like that. And yeah, maybe it's a self-defense mechanism, because I see myself, my task as giving Solex Boy all the chances he can get without pushing him too much in any direction.
And so, whichever way you lean, I will always believe that sociopaths and psychopaths will get to the top of hierarchical structures because they are smart and they are ruthless and they're built for it. And therefore, when they get there, they're going to act like sociopaths and psychopaths. And so this is what they would do. But that doesn't mean it's right. And whichever way it is, whether it's incompetence or it's evil, I think, the thing is we need to make sure that children have the best education possible and that we look towards building a better future. So
there I agree completely.
Yeah. So in that case, Daniel, with what you have learned from all the different types of education that you've gone through with your kids, and this is obviously a subject that's very, very close to your heart. I know from the first time we ever met, we talked at length about it, and it's something you're passionate about. So if we were going to say, right, we're going to try and go on to hopefully one day a Bitcoin standard and all the stuff that we're doing pays off, what do we do? Like, we've got our citadels, we've got a family, and we're wanting to make sure that they are educated in the best way. How would you look at designing this system and suggesting to people the different ways at which they could help their kids?
It takes a citadel to raise a kid, right? As the old saying goes. It's so difficult to try and put any kind of, if we've moved away from centralized structures, the last thing we want to do is then sit down and try and be the psychopath that fixes the centralized structure. And this is the way we should do education. There isn't a way. Like there truly isn't. It's like, put the trust back in the individual and put the trust back in the kid and let them be their own light and let them lead their own way and find their own paths. And I did an interview with Peter Gray and his book, Freedom to Learn, I think it's called. I should know because I've got it just behind me somewhere. Anyway, go back and listen to the episode because he takes us through the journey of the arc of how we got to be where we are today with our education system. And, he does a brilliant job of studying all of the data that he could get together from anthropologists that had lived with and interacted with hunter-gatherer tribes and taking everything back to its barest bones and then building it all up to modern day and trying to figure out where it's all gone wrong in the middle. And he came to the conclusion that that kids learn through play. That's how they best learn. And this is absolutely essential. And that is basically what still happens to this day within the hunter-gatherer tribes that you can still find in the deepest depths of Amazon jungle or wherever else they might be hiding out. That's what they do. That's what they do. They grow up imitating their elders, whether that's even their mother or father or different family elders who they've gravitated towards for whatever reason. Now, we just don't see that anymore in modernity. If there's a bunch of families hanging around together, you will notice for whatever reason one of the little kids is going to gravitate towards another adult. You can't ever put your finger on it, and they're going to come over and they're going to ask questions. I've had this, and we live in such a time now where if a kid is in a playground and a strange kid comes up to talk to another strange adult, like alarm bells start ringing, stranger danger. Why is that boy over there talking to that man? And why is that man talking back to that boy? And all of these kind of sideward glances. We've moved so far away from what we just naturally do. Now, what we should do if we are in the citadels is just let all of that play out. And wherever that kid is finding an interest, whether that's fishing with the guy from Citadel 224 up the road because he likes to go fishing, or whether he's putting with the guy because he likes to go and play golf, and just letting things evolve.
So he's wealthy then, this Bitcoiner.
Yeah,
the golfer.
The golfer, exactly. Or play football with the guy that lives just over the wall. You know.
I think this is actually reverting back to Dunbar's number, because there's a result of society becoming too big that we don't know anymore who we're living with. So if you would live in a smaller society, then there is no problem because you know who he's talking to. And now it's a stranger.
That's true. I think it might be an idea as well to recover or go back over the reason for the MESHTADEL. So you're talking about Dunbar number there, and we're talking, so Dunbar, whatever it is, 150.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to be able to communicate with more. And so, Solex, can you talk about how this MESHTADEL idea came about with you and Solex Boy, and really what the idea is about, just so Daniel can hear it and also anyone who might have not listened to the previous episodes. Because I think that's important.
Yeah. In very short, we were doing a small mind game where we did hypothetical situations, quickly came to the question, how would you build your own citadel? And in different strategical situations, we came quickly to the conclusion that for Bitcoiners to survive, Citadel on its own is not survivable. You need a network of people and places where you can get to. And that's how we came to the idea of the MESHTADEL, where different Bitcoiners on different locations can work together to form a mesh of people that they really trust. And then we came to the Dunbar number to explain if too many people come together, then it becomes impossible. The more people you come together, the smaller the level of trust can be. So even in those bigger numbers, you will always have like smaller groups and tribes within a MESHTADEL, sort of speak. Yeah, it's the idea of getting Bitcoiners organized to survive this hellish world that's becoming our modern society. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think it's a great idea, and the way to answer again, Max, with your kind of question about how would you set education up like that. Imagine that, where you could spend a year or so in a different Citadel location amongst trusted people, and feed off that vibe, feed off that village or Citadel, whatever you want to call it. And in one place, you're learning about robotics. Another place, you're learning about math. Another place, you're learning a different language. Another place, you're building nodes or whatever. This is the education that I think that would just naturally flow, and you would pick and choose where you went. And this is actually happening. This isn't theory. This is what Galileo are going to start rolling out next year. Once all of this nonsense is over and we can start traveling, they're going to, because there's already over 200 families around the world that are on this platform, families are going to be open to be able to open something that they're going to call a dojo, where, say, for example, if I'm in France here, I could hire out the local salle de fête for a couple of days a week and run different courses in there, or just have meetups and bring the kids in, and maybe one of the parents can put on a course about cooking, or maybe one of the parents could put on a course about forestry or gardening, or whatever different skills different people have. And you'll soon shake out the kids that aren't particularly interested, but you'll soon latch on to the ones that are. And that's when you can truly mentor, because kids are born to learn, but adults, this is what adults have lost. We've lost mentorship. We've lost that drive to mentor kids. It's so deeply ingrained in us to want to help people, but we just don't get the chance anymore because society has been so fractured. And I believe, again, Max, that is all part of the grand structure to fracture families, attack the family unit. And school does play a huge part in that. It truly does. It's so damn stressful on families. It doesn't, the whole education system, it doesn't serve the teachers. The teachers can't teach the way they want to teach. They can't mentor. They can't work to their own structures, they can't work to their own timetables because they're pushed every minute of the day by their head of department, who's getting pushed every minute of the day by their headmaster, who's getting pushed every minute of the day by their governing body, who's getting pushed by the people above them. And all of this is just a total breakdown. And when it gets back to the family, you've got kids coming home. The first thing they do is open the books at the dining table, and they've got 3 hours of homework. And you've got no time with your family. You've got no time with mum and dad. When you ask for mum and dad's help because you can't do the homework, mum and dad have fear and anxiety because they can't help. And they just get flashbacks and psychological baggage from their own days at school. Then there's tears and arguments, and everybody goes to bed angry, and then it's up first thing in the morning. You eat toxic shit for breakfast, and then you just throw them in the car, and then you get chucked them out at the gates, and then you rush off to your work. And this whole system repeats itself. So what do we get? We have tired, angry, stressed, broken, divorced families. You can ask the guys at What the Fuck Happened in 1971. They'll have a graph for this.
Yeah, divorce rates. Yeah, divorce rates.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. And not to mention, even if the parents did think they could help with the homework, most of the parents who are trying to support their family and trying to do well are either working one really fucking hard job or two jobs, and they're shattered. And that's, if they are coming home, it might not be till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening after traffic and travel and everything else, and their emails still going off. So, like you said, the amount of time that families are really getting to spend quality time together is practically zero. And that is mental. And then you get back to another point you made, which is like, people or children learn from mentors, and then this mentorship has been lost. And I know from personal experience, like, people have said to me before, "Oh, would you ever consider teaching art? Like,
Max?
would you ever?"
Max. We lost Max this time.
Damn.
Are you back, mate?
Did you hear me?
No, but you were about to fly into a beauty of a rant, and then you dangled the carrot, and then you were gone.
Where did you hear up to?
Oh God, it was getting good. You were just saying it was, a time that the family gets to spend with each other is practically zero.
Yeah, it is. It's practically zero. And then basically my to finish up the rant was to say, that on top of that, this mentorship idea is something that I really like the idea of. Like, I'd love the idea if someone wanted to learn from me, I'd be happy to teach. It's something that I would enjoy to do. But people have asked me before, would you consider teaching art? Would you do like a workshop, or would you do something around that? And I'm like, fuck no. Why not? Well, I don't want all the regulation. I don't want to have parents who are telling me what I can and can't say or do. I want to teach them in the way I want to teach them. I don't want to have to box check. I don't want to have to go and get specialist insurance. I don't want to have to go and get this certificate. If someone wants to come and paint with me for the day, and their kid wants to paint, cool, come along.
Exactly.
And the same thing, like, if I had a kid who loved music, I'd go and speak to Badders for the day. Go and speak. I know that he is a genius with music. Go and speak to Badders, and I'd trust him, and I'd go, right, they want to learn from you, and I'm sure he would help. And that's the thing. That's where real connections can be made and real learning can happen. But I think it's like through fear that I would never want to do it. It'd be fine with a Bitcoiner. I'd be like, yeah, okay, it's a trust thing, and like we'll work something out. But in sort of normal society, not a chance. And all the teachers that I know, they fucking hate their job, and they say, well, I can't do my job properly, I can't teach. So it's just as broken.
Yeah, there's 3 points I want to come on to, and I'm forgetting probably one of them. But one is, first of all, we should get rid of the term teaching, or the willingness to teach something. Children will learn, but we do not need to teach them. If they're interested enough, they will learn themselves what they need to learn. But they will find information and teach themselves. You want learning by experience, by doing. And if they have questions, they will ask. And that's the The only thing that I don't like about school is that they want to put information and just jam it in the brain. My task as a parent is just to make my son and my daughter curious enough to go hunting for their information themselves. And then about the mentorship would be then exactly doing that, letting children learn by themselves by doing, and having somebody nearby to ask the questions and to explain the physical element of those actions that they're doing, and even maybe some theory behind it. But it's not about to go back to permaculture, for example, the link from before the previous podcast. Being with your hands in the dirt will teach you more about gardening than about learning about the chemicals that's being broken down within that structure. It's about doing things and learning and seeing and feeling. And that's what mentorship should be, in my personal opinion. And then the second part that I wanted to say, and the third I indeed forgot, just as I predicted, by Bitcoin, by taking out the trust out of money, we introduced the value of trust between people again. And that's also something you said in with Nunya, I think, that how important it is that because Bitcoin makes money trustless, our honor system, our name becomes really important, because if you do the wrong thing, you're going to lose your name and everybody's going to know this is not somebody I can trust. And just that principle of, okay, I can send my kids to Princy to learn French with the children there, or do something, learn some real finance.
Why is the money broken?
Yeah, I would trust Princy, because his name is also very important for him, because it's part of who he is. And if he would break the trust, that's instantly with a whole bunch of people, the trust would be broken. Whereas here in a neighborhood, I'm not eager to send my kid on a camp here, for example, because I don't know those people, and I don't know even the people that they know. It's just a job for them. They wouldn't carry the same responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the third point. That was the missing key for me in Galileo, was the physical aspect. So those dojos really interest me, although I'm here in a complete backwater. I don't think anybody would start anything here. But it's a very promising development there as well, because I think the physical element is kind of important. You don't have it in school even, but I think a dojo might be the missing link.
Yeah, 100%. I can't wait for these things to start popping up around the world. And this is hopefully how we can start planning our travel going forward. We can, we can ask the kids, where do you have friends on Galileo? Oh, in Portugal. Okay, brilliant. That's easy. We can drive there. Let's sort out a weekend. We'll go down and, or a week, excuse me, and spend the weekend with the family, and then check out the dojo for a couple of days, and spend the other time as a family doing touristy stuff and exploring old towns and villages and local tavernas and all the stuff that we like to do when we travel. And then you mix all of that up, so you have the social side, the physical side, the world schooling side. You have the online clubs you can jump onto at any point. And this sounds like, people listening in, it's all very well and good, but this is happening. This isn't theory. Like, this is actually happening. This is in practice. And Galileo is not the only company doing this. There are plenty out there. There's a lot of work going on. And over the next 10 years, we're just going to see more and more of this come to the forefront, because people are getting more remote. We've talked about this so much before. Like, if COVID's done anything, it's woken the people up to the fact that living around big cities doesn't have to be the be all and end all anymore. They can move, they can be gone. And if they can go remote with their work, they can go remote with their kids' school too. Wow. Like the possibilities that now just open up in front of people are huge. But it's this paradox of choice is what is just as crippling to people, as well as the fear of making that decision, of taking that leap, of that move, of moving away from. People say, "Oh yeah, well we could never move away because we've got all our friends and family here." But at the same time, we've just discussed how there's just no community left. There are no communities, right? That's gone. The only way you're going to build a new community is to live somewhere more rural and actually get to know the people that you're living around, and start leaning on them for the goods and services that you need, and trusting them, and getting to know them, because God knows how many people live in cul-de-sacs in the UK have never met their neighbours. I mean, what world are we in? It's mental. Max, how often do you hang out with your neighbours? Do you even know who's across the road?
Yeah, we had a big get together yesterday, actually.
Nice.
So literally,
You've smashed my thesis.
No, I actually did that just so that you couldn't be smug. I don't speak to my neighbours at all. I don't do it.
So you were
purpose.
Fucking with me?
Yeah, I was fucking with you. Yeah.
You're so deadpan.
Yeah. No, I don't. I will generally, because I move a lot, so I've moved 8 times in the last 2 years. So what I tend to do is I will introduce myself when an opportunity arises, and if they're elderly or they look like they need some help, I say, look, if you ever need any help, just come and knock on my door. If you ever need anything, I'm here. That'll be it. But I won't chat to them or talk to them or anything like that, because I don't know. I don't like the chit chat. I don't like the service level stuff, and I also don't like generally most people that I meet. So if I was in a group, because they just they're going to come around and go, oh bloody hell, what do you think about the new lockdown? I go, well, same as every lockdown. I'm fucking ignoring it. Like, don't talk to me about that shit. So I don't bother with them. But if I was in a Citadel and I was around sort of like-minded, like free-thinking individuals, then of course it would be a different story. And I think your point is that it's wrong that you don't know your neighbours, and it's wrong that you don't communicate, because they're right next door and you should be there to help each other. And you're absolutely right. It's absolutely crazy. But I definitely fall in that category. I am the grumpy neighbour that doesn't speak.
But it's also because our time became so valuable as Bitcoiners that you don't want to cope with the time sieve that those people become. Talking about shallow things, I just don't want to spend time sitting half an hour listening to things that do not interest me. Then I will do something else in that half an hour, alone if need be.
You don't want to sit down and discuss the news?
No, thank you.
Solex, is that what you're saying?
Yes. I do not have any inclination to do that.
It's amazing though, isn't it? People wake up and they just switch on the news, or they pick up the newspaper, and just so that they can find their narrative for the day, so they can navigate their conversations for the day.
Yeah.
So because if I don't watch the news, and if I haven't read the newspaper, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot when so and so says to me, "Oh, so what do you think about this?" And I look misinformed, or I look ill-informed, or I look I'm just going to look stupid. So they get addicted to watching and listening or reading this shit. And it's, oh my God, I just get so triggered now when I just if I walk past the television and there's a newscast on, it's so freaking bad but like people are addicted to it, man. Like 10 o'clock news at max in the UK, the 10 o'clock news, I still think boomers especially. They're like, all right, let's, we have boomers that, are anxious as fuck. Oh, really? So what do you do? 10 o'clock every night. Let me guess. You either go and make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, caffeine at 10 p.m., to go and sit down in front of the most depressing half hour of bullshit that you could ever hope for. And then to top it off, they're going to give you a 5-minute local news where someone's been shot, stabbed, raped, and murdered, just a couple of corners
all
over.
at the same time.
Yeah. And then they're going to top you off with the weather, which generally if you're in the UK is going to be shit. Or if they tell you it's going to be sunny the next morning, you go to bed with at least that little glimmer of hope, and you wake up and it's raining, and the rest of your day's fucked anyway. So
it's so true. Or sit on Facebook is the other thing, because that's the new boomer thing. Anyone sort of 50, 60, 70, they sit on Facebook, they share stupid little videos between one another that actually have no fact checking or anything like that, post stupid little comments, and that's what they do. And it's just like, and they just reinforce each other's ideas and things that they've seen on the news. And when you said, you're either uninformed or misinformed, that's absolutely true. You either don't watch the news and you're not informed about what they're sort of brainwashing you about, or you're ill-informed because you're watching it and it's bullshit. And it is through fear of sounding stupid. And there's a quote or a quote at the beginning of what was the film called? Fucking brain letting me down as usual. The Big Short. I don't know if you remember that part where at The Big Short they're saying, everyone, when you ask someone about what happened in 2008, they will reel off a little spiel that they've heard that they don't understand, so that they sound like they're not stupid, but they do not understand. And that's so true in every walk of life. Like, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a few things that they can reel off, but nobody understands it. And so it's just one person going to another person, telling them something that they don't actually know about, and then the other person trying to argue something that they also don't know about. And that's that half-hour conversation with your neighbor. And so, to Solex's point, that's why many people just ignore it, because it's just like, fuck, it's such a waste of time. Like, talking about politics and talking about all the COVID rules and all this stuff. And you're like, do you know what? I could actually be going and learning something useful. I could actually go and spend time with my family. I could actually go to the gym and I'd feel a bit better, or do something. So I think that is probably why Bitcoiners are sort of doing that, and probably why we spend so much time talking to each other, because it's just like, oh, thank God. back to reality.
It's so true. And I remember when my wife Claire and I were trying to figure out, our next stage of life. Right, I wanted to quit my job. That was absolutely 100% clear, and I wanted to spend more time with the kids, and we wanted to travel. And all of these pieces of the puzzle started falling into place, and we started doing a deep dive, the research, the rabbit holes into self-directed education, alternative education, homeschooling, world schooling. Watched all the videos. John Taylor Gatto, John Holt, Ken Robinson, Peter Gray, did the lot. Right, over 4 months. It was quick, deep, and concise research. And bam, come to the decision made. Start telling friends and family. Everybody tells you the complete opposite. Everybody tells you you're fucking crazy. Yeah. What are you doing? What do you mean you're going to give away? You can't do that. You can't take away. You can't take the kids out of school. That's a non-starter. There's nowhere in the world you can do that. They're going to be stupid. They'll never be able to socialize. They'll never get a job. They're going to be so far behind in life that you're being irresponsible. You're being selfish. Just because what makes you so special? What you don't want to work anymore? Yes, so nor do I. But it doesn't mean I've got kids to put through school, and so do you. So fucking man up, get back in your seat, and carry on. And all of this, and you just like you almost get talked out of it. And then like it was an epiphany. It's like, I'm taking advice from people who've never fucking done something they're giving me advice about. Like, there's no working knowledge here. None. Zero. So I can discount every bit of it. But to your point, they opinions are like arseholes, right? Everybody's got one. And they don't think theirs stinks. And so it's this. That's when we realized we needed to find the validation. And we found the validation via a few family blogs and listening to podcasts of other families that were doing the exact same type of thing that we were trying to achieve. And, this is what you're trying to do with this pod, right? People are trying to find validation in whatever it is, Bitcoin, as we know, all roads lead to Bitcoin, whether that is the previous guests that you've had on, people looking for validation and, perhaps up in sticks, selling their house, go and start a permaculture garden somewhere and live off the land. Brilliant. Go do that. But you start telling people that this is your plan, they're going to look at you with cross eyes and think you're fucking gone in the head. But when you find that person that's done it and you can see, oh my God, look at how they live. This is exactly what I want. If you can find the validation, and this is what we do with the Bitcoin podcast as well. Yeah, you got to be fucking crazy to leave the fiat monetary system. Of course you do. This is all you've ever known, and the only expert advice you've ever had are from the flapping fuckwits on television that are forcing inflation down your neck, and inflation is good, and make sure you put your money in your ISAs and all of this dog shit, and this other freaking band of merry men and charlatans that are coming around and selling you all of this freaking stupid investment theses and modern monetary theory and funds that lock your savings up for 25 years and aren't even going to outpace inflation. All of that expert witness stuff. And you got this band of morons over here saying, guys, fuck that, Bitcoin's the thing. They're not going to listen to us. They're not. Until they're like, those guys are still going on about it. They've done hundreds of podcasts about it. There's people around the world that are doing this. And they're not just talking to flapping heads. They're talking to real people, plebs. Like, okay, that's when we can start drawing people in and helping them educate and not mentor, well, to a certain extent, anyone can DM any three of us, right?
Yep.
And we would absolutely 100% mentor them. I've been mentored by so many people. So yeah, mentor is the word, I would say. Yeah. The amount of people that have helped me on my journey, setting up a node, for God's sake. What?
Yeah, there's so much, isn't there? And all Bitcoiners, that's what I love, is like, it is mentorship, but it's everyone has different skills in different areas. And, one person might have some incredible insight in like finance, another person's really technically savvy, and they all will help each other. And between all of us, we sort of just work it out. And that's another one of these features with Bitcoin, which is like a hidden feature, is like the fuck you feature, which is, I can imagine now the conversation that you had with the people who were telling you how stupid you were to take your kids out of school, however many years ago it was, and the conversation now. I imagine it would go very differently, and that the conversation now would be, fuck you, I'll do what I want. This is the best thing. I trust my opinions. I was right about Bitcoin. I'm right about this. And you do what you want with your shitty little family. I'll do what I think is best for mine. Fuck off. And I think like that is a really useful feature with Bitcoin, is that it just cuts through the bullshit and it saves so much time just being able to say, fuck off. It's so, so important.
Yeah. It's, it gives you so much, yeah, to your point, Max. Actually, it's those conversations that they really come up. It's like you're always judged on your original decision and never the results, right? Because to be judged on the results would mean that person made bad projections in the first place, and this happens throughout all sectors of business as well, right? I mean, people working, like you brought up earlier, working for psychopathic bosses or sociopaths that rise to the top of these hierarchical structures. But yeah, once you do have Bitcoin under your belt and you've grokked it a little bit and you're holding some of it, and you see the change it has in your thinking and in your demeanor and in your confidence about the future, it's a powerful thing. It is very, very hard to explain to people that have never been through that or aren't willing to even because they see it as too risky, or there comes back again to education, right? I don't know anything about financial markets. I've never been good with money. I've never been good with math. I don't like financial markets. Oh no. And they'll just find any high level FUD or kind of excuse in their own personal intellect and make a little bit of a joke about it. Oh no, I'm too thick to understand that. You know what I'm like? Yeah. I move on to the next shot. and then move on to the next shallow topic, right? But yeah, once you have put that work in a little bit, to your point, Max, yeah, it does give you a voice. It gives you that opportunity to turn around and say, you know what? No, this is all bollocks. I'm not standing for this anymore. And I don't need to, because I'm not dependent on their money. And by the way, their money's fucked. It's broken. It's disgusting. It's an absolute Ponzi scheme. It's the biggest scam and criminal racket ever known to man. And I'm slowly edging out of that. And with every little footstep closer to the end goal, feels great.
Yeah, I think we're all on that journey. I mean, from what we were discussing just before the pod, we're all on that journey of trying to just get away from that disgusting fuck of a system and just trying to get back to something that means something and there's truth to it. And you know, it starts with Bitcoin and it leads down all these other different rabbit holes, and it really is that fix the money, fix the world idea. It's, you know, once you get the sound money and you see that there is a better system and there is hope, you start to improve on every other aspect of your life, and that's so powerful. And that's something with the education, which it's been really cool to hear from Lauren about it all. It's been really cool to hear, you know, how all this is set up and about the dojos and all that kind of thing, because it just makes sense. Like I'm listening to what you're saying, and like, even if I didn't know you and you weren't a Bitcoiner and I had this conversation, I'd just be like, why is it that I'm speaking to this bloke who's making all the sense, and then I speak to any other school or someone talking about education and they just talk drivel? There must be something more to this. It can't just be surface level. It can't just be that, right, Daniel Prince is the best salesman on the planet and he's not talking any sense, but it sounds good. It can't be that. It has to be more depth, and it clearly is, because, you know, speaking to Lauren, she's enjoying doing the pod. She's, you know, this thing about socializing. Oh, well, they won't be able to socialize. She's having conversations with some of the smartest Bitcoiners on the planet almost every day, and holding her own, and, well, the best podcaster in the whole space. So if she can't socialize, where's the proof to this? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that the socializing myth has been busted so many times. And you know, school is antisocial. There's nothing social about school. You shut inside. You're shut inside, you know, locked inside now in many countries, to keep out the Mr. Boogeyman and whoever else might, you know, come and invade the school grounds, and not allowed to even talk to each other. And you spend most of the recreation time avoiding the people you don't want to talk to. There's nothing social about it. It is the complete opposite to being social. And you know, the word, the actual definition of the word socialize, the verb to socialize, one of the definitions is to mold a person into conforming to society. You're like, oh, right, okay, there you go again. Bam, we're back to that, are we? Like, it's just like so which form of socializing are the powers that be that run these institutions actually aiming at? Well, it certainly isn't the one where kids get to talk to each other all day. So that only leaves the other option.
It's worrying stuff. Solex, any sort of thoughts on this, or any other questions on the schooling side?
No, I just realized that I found the link to the permaculture permaculture is keeping as much of the energy in your system as possible, as I understood it from Chino. And I think Bitcoin is the element that creates curiosity, or it was the base for creating a curiosity that was able to build a trust between people that feeds against the curiosity, that brings the hope for our next generation, for which we have to generate again that curiosity to bring new hope and trust for all the generations to come. So the circle is round for me.
So like say that again about permaculture. Is a way to keep
One of the main goals of permaculture is to keep as much of the energy that is introduced in your system, to keep it in your system. So, for example, when you have rain falling on your land, you want to make sure that that rain is used to the maximum potential. So if your land would be on a slope, they would try to make like a form in the field that it undulates from one side to the other, all to slow down the flow and to cover as much of as terrain as possible to keep that.
So it permeates through the earth, isn't it?
Yeah, and so the also if you have leftovers or to compost your leftovers from the food, for example, to your grass cuttings that you don't put it in a container and ship it off to whatever institution that is or whatever installment that is making compost of that in big factories. Just leave it where it is. So just
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And the same as school. I think that's your point. Is like use the intellect in the Bitcoin space. Use the trust. Leverage all of these things to help educate the children.
I see the loop. Yeah, I see the loop because what we have is the complete opposite in school. We do not have perma education. We have fiat education, where you are basically just trying to rote memorize as many facts as you can for that test, and then it's all gone. Poof. See you later. Don't need that anymore.
Artificial fertilizer, and the brain is just without nutrients going out of the school. It's just all fake and air. And whereas the real education is something that the child itself has to find what are the interests, what makes them tick. For Solex Boy as well, I just give him all the opportunities that he can have. If he's interested, I'm just making sure that he has the best possibilities to explore that interest. And if it pans out to be something like a fad, okay, then it was that. At least he knows that now. If it's something that he really finds his passion in, perfect, keep going. And it's that curiosity that we have to kindle, and then our children will find their own path. And that is the hope that Bitcoin brings. And that's why I think I see more and more Bitcoiners having children, because they found the hope. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. They are
100%. And once you get like financial independence as well, and you can start spending actual time with the kids and enjoying them rather than just them being a freaking extra body in the house, which is how most kids kind of get treated. Children should be seen but not heard, sort of fiat kind of meme, which is shocking. And we need to turn that on its head. And I'm very, very bullish for the family units going forward and for Bitcoiners, because once you separate money from state, you will separate education from state. There's no way in the world that won't happen, and vice versa. These two are so interlinked and so interwoven that there'll be bumps along the road. Of course, we have bumps along the Bitcoin road. You have bumps along the alternative education road, because the social construct, the pressures against you, the judgmental hell that you have to face is really tough. Is very, very tough. And we've all faced it from friends and family. When we talk about Bitcoin, you're the crazy guy, you're the idiot, you're the snake oil salesman, you're whatever, because nobody's willing to go down a rabbit hole and educate themselves a little bit. And the same happens in the alternative education space. All of a sudden, everybody has this right to call you a bad parent. And what are you doing? You're ruining your kids' lives. So it's tough. It's a lonely path to tread. But at the end of the day, once Bitcoin starts doing its thing, and the younger guys in the next 5 years or so, the younger guys that have been hodling and stacking, they'll start getting married, they'll start having families, and they'll be able to really enjoy their families. And I'm really bullish for the future and for the young guys coming through to start building their families and doing something that they love.
Me too. And that's what we sort of wrapped up last time on. It's important that we're energy efficient with, permaculture ideas of your land should be energy efficient. You take in a certain amount of energy and you use it as best you possibly can. You use every single bit of it. You don't let any go to waste. So it's about having that energy and also nutritionally dense food, which is really important. And now I think this ties in really nicely, is that with children, you want to be able to spend the time with them. You want to have, you want to be able to use their energy in the best way so it's not wasted. And then also you want to make sure that all of that knowledge is dense, that the child is not dense, but the actual knowledge is dense and the experience is dense. And so that they actually come out a rounded, smart individual. Yeah. And so, I think everything that we've discussed today to me makes sense, although I don't have children yet. It makes me really bullish. And if you guys don't have any other points you particularly wanted to cover, I would just say, first of all, to anyone who hasn't already listened to Daniel's pod or read his incredible book, go and do it now, because it's fucking awesome. And a lot of the stuff that we're discussing today will be we'll go into more depth. And I would also say just thank you to both of you for joining and helping with this MESHTADEL idea. Hopefully it will grow. Hopefully people find value in it. But even if no one else does, I definitely have, and I've learned a lot today. So thanks to both of you.
Thank you. It was also for me very interesting to hear more about the Galileo project, and especially the dojos. I'm really hoping that they come also to here, although I doubt it. I'm bullish on that.
Awesome. Make sure you Solex, make sure you reach out to Vlad again. You'll be able to email, I'm sure, directly. If you can't, let me know, and I'll put you in touch, and you can ask about that audition video and a way around that, because he's very open to connecting, especially with Bitcoiners, because he's one himself. So
I will pass it on to Solex Boy especially.
Okay, no problem. And thanks to you both. You've both been on the show before, and really appreciate everything that you're both doing in the space. We're all in this together and trying to educate as many people as we can. Right now, we're just a bunch of merry freaking misfits, as Max likes to call us, and it's going to be this. It'll all look very different in 5 years. So I'm just enjoying these kind of conversations whilst they last, because next 5 years is going to be crazy. Now it'll be a much bigger space, and it'll be much more difficult to stay in touch with each other and create these cool little small knit groups, niche conversations. So thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
And I'll get the Galileo details so I can put those in the show notes. And if there's any other bits, Daniel, that you think would be useful, if you don't mind sending them over so anyone listening can do this. And if you're listening and you've got kids and this makes sense, like if someone's whispering in your ear or telling you that you're an idiot or a bad parent, just remember to tell them to fuck off and go and do your research and care about your children more than you care about what people think about you. Because if they're talking like that, they don't really care. Look after the ones closest to you.
Nice. Well said.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for this. And hopefully when all this COVID stuff is finished, we really should catch up for a beer and go and do something in the flesh. It'd be cool.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Cheers.